guys, Enterprise. Today what we're going to do is help BTEC Tech Award in Enterprise students with component 3, which is your exam, and we're going to target today Learn Name C. Now what we're going to try and do today is help you with completing a break-even chart. So the question we're going to have a look at today is 4 marks. We're going to try and help you guys get 4 marks out of 4 on this potential exam question. So let's have a look. Now first of all, with your exam you will get a scenario attached to it. The particular scenario related to this question is on Grow Me cards. Now what you might want to do is just spend 30 seconds or just a minute just pausing the video and just underlining or picking out some of the keywords you can see in the Grow Me cards scenario. Okay, once you've had a look at the scenario, you'll be presented with a question that looks a little bit like this. So it says, Rabidol has to calculate the number of cards that the enterprise would need to sell to break even each month. So the break even point is essentially where the business is not losing money, but it's not gaining money. So it's the point where the revenue and the total costs are exactly the same. You'll be presented with a table that looks like this. It has costs and revenue attached to it in a little table that looks like this. And in the table, you've got number of cards, total revenue figures, fixed costs, and then costs that remain the same, fixed costs, and then the total cost for the enterprise as well. Now the question is asking you for 4 marks here, so there's a lot of marks attached to this section. Using the data in table 1, which is here, draw and label to get your full marks, so you need to label it as well. The fixed cost line, the total cost line, the total revenue line, and then finally the break-even point. So we're going to show you now how you get 4 marks on this question. So imagine you're in your exam, you've got a pencil and a ruler with you as part of completing this question effectively. You're going to have to draw out your break-even chart and all of that information on this little diagram that looks, on this little chart, that's just on the left-hand side. So on the y-axis, as you can see, you've got costs and revenue in pounds sterling. And then along the x-axis, you've got the number of cards that the business is currently selling or producing. So using your table here, the first thing we need to do to get your first mark is we need to draw and label the fixed costs that remain the same. Now, little hint for you, make sure you are always looking at this table whilst you're drawing out your information on the left-hand side, because this is going to really support your understanding here. So the first thing you can do, which is easy, is draw and label your fixed costs. Now you can see when the business is producing 0 cards, and even when they're producing 300 cards, their fixed costs remain exactly the same. They're £600 continuously. So what I would do in your exam is go to 0 along the bottom, the number of cards, and just run your finger up to 600, okay, because that's where the fixed cost figure is. So do a little pencil mark here. And as you can see, if you run your finger along to 300 number of cards, and then up again to 600, the line there, and then you can draw between those 2 points using a pencil and ruler your fixed cost. They remain exactly the same. They're continuously £600 regardless of whether the business is producing or selling 0 units or whether they're producing or selling 300 units. Now, of course, that is not enough to get our first mark. At the end of your line, what I would advise you do here is you either write fixed costs or you write as an abbreviation FC. And that way the examiner can give you full marks. They can give you the first mark because you've drawn the line and you've also labelled it as well. The next thing we're going to tackle is the total revenue. Now remember, revenue is the income they are generating, the enterprise is generating from the sales of goods and services. Now you can see from this table here, when they are producing or selling 0 cards, their revenue is of course 0. So what I would advise you do here is you get your pencil again, mark it off where it's 0 units and £0 and sterling. So do a little pencil mark there. And you can see at their best, when they're selling £300, the revenue is £1,200, okay? So what I would do is go across the 300 on the x-axis here, run your finger up until you get to £1,200. And then what I would do, same concept as before, just draw a nice straight line using your pencil and ruler between these 2 points. And that will label for you the enterprise's total revenue. Now, of course, to get your full mark again, you can label it as TR, so the examiner knows exactly what that line is referring to. So that's 2 marks in the bag already on this question. The next thing you can do, guys, is label your total cost. So that's the total outgoings for this enterprise. Now you'll see again on this table here, when they're producing or selling 0 units, their total costs are £600, okay? So to start labeling your total cost line, when the number of cards is 0 there, total cost is 600. So you're going to start labeling with a pencil just on this point here, if you make a little mark. And then of course, when they are producing or selling 300 units, what's happening then is their total costs are going up to £900. So what I advise you to do if you're in an exam is run your finger along to 300 again. And then of course it's £900, so run your finger up all the way to 900. And then using your pencil again, mark it out where it's 900. And then draw a nice straight line between those 2 points. From the starting point when they're producing 0 units to the ending point when they're producing their maximum number of units, which is 300, okay? So the total cost line, of course, to get your mark again, to get your 3rd mark, you have to label that as TC or total costs. So as you can see, now we're drawing this, the revenue and the costs are actually crossing over. So they do have what we call a break-even point here. Okay, so this is where the total costs and the total revenue are exactly the same. Okay, so to get our 4th mark here, the examiner is looking for us to label our break-even point. Okay, so of course, what you can do in an exam is you can label it with just a little X, so the examiner knows where your break-even point is. And then of course, if you just label it as either break-even or BEP for break-even point, the examiner knows then that the break-even point is 200 units. That's how many units they must sell just to cover their costs, okay? So if you draw and label your break-even chart just like that, you'll be able to get 4 marks out of 4 on this particular question. Always start with your fixed costs because they're the easiest one to get your 1st mark in the bag. Always make sure you're labeling the break-even point. And make sure at the end of each line you are referring to either total costs, total revenue, fixed costs, etc. Really important to get your full mark on each individual question. Now, I hope that was really helpful for you. And if you liked the video, please like and subscribe to Revise Enterprise. And don't forget to follow us on social media through Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and also TESS as well. And we'll look forward to seeing you on the next video.